We got a great show planned for you today, and a very special guest who we will introduce later. Shout-outs. Steve, you got a couple of shout-outs?
Yeah, I'm pretty happy about my first one.
Okay.
Yeah, Ben Hunt joining the Brisbane Broncos. Even I personally believe he owes us a championship because he dropped the ball when the Cowboys beat us back in 2017. So I think he's a great player. I think he's going to come back and give us a premiership. That's Ben Hunt.
Any relation to Mike Hunt?
I'm not sure if he is related.
I think there's a tight...
No, yeah.
Okay.
And I want to give out to Goulding, who I'm becoming a greater fan of as his career continues.
This would be Chris Goulding?
Yes, that would be Chris Goulding. Sorry, producer. And, he had 30-odd points in a game against Korea, and just 7 threes, tough as hell. He is on fire. And then Giddey, I wanted to talk a little bit of NBA. He's actually getting...
Josh Giddey?
Yeah, that's right, Josh Giddey. And he's getting some game time, and he's doing well. He nearly got a triple-double, 11 points, 10 assists, 8 rebounds. So they're my 3 shout-outs. Bruce
Great.
Boy.
Well, I'm shouting out to the Boomers for upending those 2 powerhouses, Thailand and Korea. By the way, Lee, HJ, Lyndon Brieffies is our guest today. Lyndon, I'm going to bring you in right now. You know everybody's first name. What's Lee from Korea's first name?
Yeah, that's it. You just pronounced it just then. Welcome, Bruce. It's nice to be here. Thank you. HG Lee.
God, he flops more than... Everybody's been complaining about Goulding getting knocked down. Wollongong flopped collectively more than any team in it. And that guy, my God, dribble, jump into you, fall down, throw it up, and then where's the call? Mate, this isn't the KBL, right? This is the NBL. This is where you get rewarded for
He
that.
would have got called in the NBL.
I want another shout out. We'll go back into his flopping because it was everybody flopping.
It's a flopathon.
BQ Awards, where in the past, Lyndon Brieffies, our guest, has won Association of the Year. And Lyndon's going to tell us what the criteria for that is.
Yeah, because I'm super keen to find out.
Well, it's interesting because the following year, it was won by Brisbane Capitals.
Oh, really?
How do you get that?
Do they have like a little bingo ball thing and just pull out?
It's kind of
numbers?
like Tattersalls.
Yeah, right.
It's a little bit like that. The last one, I went to the BK Owls basketball club.
Oh, that's Brian
Awards.
Kerle, our sponsor.
Made over 300 people in attendance. They have 390 kids.
Wow.
And they talk about association, or if there were a club of the year, the BK Owls would be getting it.
Wow.
I was so impressed. Everything about it was professional. A lot of kids and parents there.
Pangy,
really well done.
was it Justin or Jason? What's it?
Christian Pang.
There you go, Christian
and Toby really run the academy.
Yeah, that's great.
And the rest of their programs, it's the best program in all of Queensland.
Wow.
BQ just doesn't have an award for it.
Okay. Well, maybe we can start like lobbying BQ because I'm sure they listen to our podcast, Bruce. I'm sure it's all those people that I don't know living in the castle of QBL. They'd love to watch or listen to our podcast.
Well, we got, and we're going to go through, and we're going to start right now with our guest, Lyndon Brieffies, because Lyndon's got a long history in basketball, right?
He certainly does, but I'm really keen to get out of Lyndon how he got into basketball all those many years ago in the little town of Bundaberg where Lyndon was born. Hello, Lyndon.
Good afternoon, Stephen. Good afternoon, Bruce.
We don't speak with hushed tones here.
You don't speak with hushed tones.
Yeah. We'll get onto those later as well.
But let's start right there.
So
Let's start with
Bundaberg,
your basketball journey.
Bundaberg basketball. Well, some of our listeners might not understand that Stevie and I both came from Bundaberg. And
that's correct.
We went through school together. Our parents were friends, and he was a little pesky. Let's just say that, Bruce. When we were younger, he used to follow me around a lot. he used to pester me, and he was playing this game of basketball, and I was doing other stuff. I was doing cricket, I was doing rugby league, I was doing
You
soccer.
can't play cricket. What are you
Anyway,
talking
he kept pestering me because he was little and he was getting bullied on the basketball court. So he kept saying to me, can you come and help look after me on the basketball court? So eventually, when I was 13, I succumbed to Stevie's constant pleas and whining to come and play this game that I wasn't all that interested in, I must admit. So to his credit, he persisted.
Yeah, so I saved his life, basically.
Well,
I changed his life.
I would probably say it was the other way around.
I introduced you to the world of basketball, the game we love, right?
You did. And I would say that was true. We played it. My first ever game was under 14s for Across the Waves in Bundaberg, playing club basketball. We had a very, very good fundamental coach, Alan Jenkins, to this day, who's
Correct.
one of the best coaches that I've ever seen coach junior basketball. Taught us the fundamentals from the very beginning. Can you do a jump stop? Can you pivot? I know you use pivoting quite a lot on this show.
We pivot a lot on the show. Yeah.
But we started our playing career there, and then we played lots of basketball together over many, many years. And
State representation.
well, Bundaberg, Wide Bay, state representation.
Yeah, in those days it wasn't a classic. It was areas. It was Wide Bay versus Southeast Queensland versus Far North Queensland.
So you guys both missed out on national tournaments. Under
No,
16, under 18,
then there would
under
be Queensland teams.
Yeah, we played
so
for
under
Queensland.
16, but there was only one Queensland team for the whole state.
Oh, there was no north and south.
No. So you actually had to be legit representing Queensland. So we played for Queensland together. We played a fair bit of senior basketball together. We moved down south. We played A grade in the GBL in Brisbane a fair bit. We also played a little bit in the state league in those days.
Yes.
So
This is meandering nowhere.
Yeah,
I,
but
I
you
think
know,
one of the highlights, don't forget, we actually played in the World Masters games together too, which was quite an enjoyable experience.
Can we not pivot so much as just backpedal?
Sure.
The Australian Institute of Sport had the pleasure of your attendance, did it not?
It did.
Years?
1986. So I finished school in 85, and I'm going to shout out to Brian Kerle because when I was at St Peter's in year 12, the Bullets trained at St Peter's in those days, and I used to train with them, and I guess that's probably where I learned a lot of my trade as a big, because in those days it was Dorji, Larry Senstock, Chris McGraw, Emery Atkinson. They were some pretty big units. Rob Sibley was running around out there, and I was a fairly skinny 17-year-old kid, pretty much getting beaten up by those blokes on a regular basis. But at the end of 1985, when I finished year 12, Brian Kerle invited me as a 17-year-old skinny kid from Bundaberg to go on the US tour at the end of the end of season tour, and we toured from Miami right up to New York, and that was one of the
so you remember
coolest
because the
experiences.
league was not
It was a
in
winter
the summer, it was in the winter. So we used to be able to travel to America to play all the college teams in their pre-season games. So
Yeah.
it was a lot of fun. I had 2 of those tours.
Yeah.
They were awesome.
And then
Now,
came back
who-
into the AIS. Sorry, I got to your point eventually.
Yeah,
Went to the
yeah.
AIS.
It's okay because we got an editor. Who else was it? How many years were you at the Institute, and who were some of in your cohort?
So 1986, 1 year, that was the Australian junior squad. The guys that were at the AIS with me at that time were Mark Bradkey, Shane Froling, Peter Hill, John Stelter, Scott Kroll from Queensland. There was a few other guys. That Australian junior squad also had Longley, Vlahoff and Heel in it, but they weren't.
There's some big names.
They weren't at the AIS at that stage though, because they were off doing different things.
Okay, but Blahov and Longley and that other guy,
Yeah.
they all went to the Institute, did they not?
Yeah, not in the year that I was there, but they did
After.
it yeah.
Okay, and then
And
you-
just to pick up there, just to pivot, Mark Bradkey running Gold Coast.
yeah, we
basketball.
should have shouted him out. Congratulations,
Just
to
welcome-
Gold
welcome
Coast
to Queensland.
basketball.
I reckon that's a good step for them down there.
Oh yeah,
I
absolutely.
agree wholeheartedly. I think he'll add some jam.
Yeah.
Let's get back to Brieffies.
Yeah.
The Brieffies story.
So, Institute, he's played for Queensland, comes back from the Institute, you get at the Gold Coast. Correct
No,
me.
Townsville Suns.
Townsville Suns. That's right.
Yeah, I had a couple of years where I signed a 2-year contract. It was 1 year State League, 1 year NBL, because Townsville was looking at getting an expansion into the NBL. So Mark Bragg was there, and I went up and played in Townsville, and then they didn't get the license for the second year. So then I went to the Gold Coast because it looked like it had pivoted to the Gold Coast.
Tommy Wiseman at the
Tommy
helm?
Wiseman was the head coach, a very good coach as well that you know. Played with a good team and went to the Gold Coast and played, but then the Gold Coast didn't get in. So I was a little frustrated at that point of my career. So Stevie knows I had a little bit of time away from the game then. I pivoted into rugby union.
That's right.
Good pivot.
For Bond University.
Played in the first ever Bond University rugby
right.
team and Steve came and joined us for a number of those games. And it was a little pivot in my career.
A lot of multi-skilled.
Well, I got a pair of multi-skilled athletes right
Oh, right. Yeah. Big time.
So when is it that you joined the Bullets? Because you guys were teammates,
Yeah.
Correct.
and we were teammates,
Yeah.
player coach.
Yeah, so I hurt myself and didn't, and the year after you came.
Well, what year did you come?
I was at the Bullets 91, 92, 93. So 91 with Kerle and 2 years, 92, 93 with you, Bruce.
Yeah.
But I came back and played a season in the State League with Toowoomba on a team.
Won a state championship.
John Riley, David Blades,
Yeah.
Danny Morsu, Tommy Gerhardt,
Did you have the
Dave Nelson.
Did you have the 7-footer in
No,
that?
he was after my time, Stevie. But that was a pretty good team.
I had a
But-
fight with
Very
him.
good team.
Oh, wouldn't be the first fight you've had on a basketball
He
court.
was 7 foot, and he needed to be spoken sternly to.
Did you drop him like he was hot, or
I was ready to, but I don't know. These things called referees sort of prevented any further action. But anyway, these little side pivots. Yes, so you won the championship.
Won
didn't
the
you?
championship. So
Morsey in that
won the
team?
championship on the Gold Coast, won the championship in Toowoomba, and then came back and played for Brisbane. And we won a championship at Caps too, as well. And then got into the Bullet squad. So started training with the Bullets, which was pretty cool.
right? Okay.
Yeah, so like I was 89, 91. So we crossed over for 2 years.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I just got to ask you back, pivoting to the
Okay, let's
institute,
pivot,
because the name, I love Shane Foley. Like,
I love him.
Yeah, he's the champion. Did you and Shane learn how to dance on tables as a warm-up for games in the institute? Was it something?
Was that one of the institute?
No, that was more in the NBL. I think.
Oh,
That was in the NBL days where dancing was part of the recovery.
So,
That's just
yes, and pregame motivation. So we opened that '93 season with a loss at home to Wollongong. The Alan Black coached Wollongong.
Oh, yes.
Then we go on the road and we're playing Tassie. So my assistant coach finishes getting high, and we walk down to the pub, and I can see these thick-legged, tall, it's Frawling and Lyndon dancing on the bar. I'm going down to get dinner, or we've had dinner. Let's have a quiet. We'll talk about our prep. And there they are dancing.
Well, they were just waiting for you to talk about the game, clearly.
It didn't worry me so much that Lyndon was shaking his group thing, because he wasn't going to play a lot.
That's true.
But Frawl started. And I'm thinking, wow.
And that's why I love that man, because he wouldn't have bothered him at all. He'd be ready to go.
He'd be ready to go.
It was more like an early version of Pilates, really. You know, the athletes these days use Pilates in recovery. It was
Yeah.
kind of like that. There was a bit of stretching
go.
to it. There was a bit of...
But I knew I had a couple of characters in my fold. All right, so your playing career ended in '93, other than playing domestic and social.
Yeah.
When did you get into coaching?
Well, 94, effectively, because when I finished playing in 93, I got my first teaching job. I'd done my teaching degree part-time like Stevie did as I was playing, and then got an offer at St. Peter's, my old alma mater, in the PE staff in 1994. And that actually turned quite a few things in my favour, because I was fortunate enough when I walked in that very first day to sit opposite my now wife, Jude, the beautiful Jude.
Oh.
So how lucky am I, right?
You are a lucky
I'm a
man.
very lucky man.
Lucky man.
Absolutely.
I mean, clearly Jude is
She's a lucky woman.
she's a
tolerant.
fan of the podcast. So Lyndon's just trying to
Oh, you try? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think she might have subscribed, actually, to tell you
Yeah.
the truth.
Well,
One of the
how many
2,000.
subscribers have we got now?
Yeah, what's the
Little
number?
over 2,000.
Yeah.
2,000.
Yeah.
I think that's an exaggeration, but anyway.
What you put?
What?
Producer? Can you? Okay.
Oh, no comment from the producer.
So,
Yeah.
so he met his wife. I'd already met Jude, by the way, before Lyndon met her.
And I had to ask the question.
Did Tomo get engaged to her?
No. Okay. He has been engaged to many. No, he hadn't. But she was a character, Jude. Her and I was a PE teacher, and I was her. What do you call it?
Supervising teacher, which
at
is
Terrace. I was at Terrace.
Oh, that explains Jude's foul mouth.
Yeah, well, she actually had a swear jar.
Yeah,
So here's this female. I'm the youngest
student.
PE teacher, and she brings a swear jar in because the PE
She
room.
she
'cause
swears.
there was a
No.
lot of swearing.
Oh.
And so I come down the stairs into the PE room, and some little kid had been giving me the shits, and I'm going to kick that little fucker up the ass, blah, 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 blah. And they're going, Steve, you got to put money in the swear jar. I said, fucking swear jar? What's a fucking swear jar? And there's Jude sitting there going, Steve, you owe about $10. And I said, fuck you, swear jar.
She's
Well,
still
there
past
goes.
her prac, though. She's
With
still,
those profanities, it might affect our next wave of subscriptions, but we'll find that out. Okay, so you started your teaching career
And coaching.
You started
Yeah,
your
I guess
coaching
that's where I
career.
started
so
coaching.
'94. Who did you coach?
Well, I started at St. Peter's. I was coaching
Okay.
basketball at the school and got involved in the basketball program there. Actually, a famous Australian female basketballer called Trish Cochran was working
Yeah,
at St.
that's
Peter's.
right.
A very, very
Great
talented player and a very, very talented coach.
Was Trish there then?
Trish was at St. Peter's.
Wow.
Yeah. So there, and another good mate of mine, Scotty Francis, coached there as well.
Sure, no Scott Berry.
So this is post the Richard Stokes era, you know, like he coached me when I was there.
So is the Lutheran College St.
St. Peter's.
Peter's?
St. Peter's.
Do they have borders?
Yes.
Yeah,
I was
so-
a boarder.
So Lyndon is a year older than me, so he boarded in grade 12, your grade 12.
I should apologise because Richard Stokes was he was there
Was
and
he
he won
in charge of the boarding house?
So this is a good story.
He was.
They
But
won an Australian title.
The year I was there, and Tomo, our good mate, has never let me live this down, but the year I was there, we won the Champion School of Queensland at St. Peter's in 1985, and we went to the national tournament. We got beaten in the final. I think it was Templestowe High from Victoria.
Hang on.
Okay.
Tom always told me you won.
No, we were runner-up
Queensland.
in the national tournament.
He's always told me he's a national champion.
Yeah, because he was there the year after me, Stevie. So Tomo went in 86.
In
Because he got to repeat.
in those
Steve.
days, St. Peter's was by far the best basketball
powerhouse.
school.
Yeah.
And then Stokes, he did a good job. He recruited. And
He
because it's-
recruited.
And because
Well,
you've got
no,
a
no.
boarding school, it helps. And no one else was really doing it.
I
at
was
that
there
time.
actually on a basketball Queensland scholarship because it was a scholarship called the Ian Watson Development Fund. So Ian Watson was a former
I
basketball
know
Queensland.
Ian well.
Yeah,
He's a Melbourne Tiger.
yeah. So I was the first scholarship holder for the Ian Watson Development Fund.
Wow. Now they give out scholarships when they want to fire somebody. They give them half a salary to go coach somewhere.
I've heard that.
There's a rumor going around about that.
I hope it's wrong, but we aren't going to go down that
I mean,
road.
we just respond to listeners' things that they're telling us.
Right? It's
Yeah.
come from a few
And
good sources, but
from our 2,000 fans, two of them like to email us and tell us stuff.
we don't want to, because we've been advised by our producer, no nicknames. So when we say Tomo, we mean Mark Thompson,
Oh, that's right. I'm sorry.
full grown at the age of 11.
One
Oh,
of the-
no. Tomo was a big boy, coached by Cal Bruton.
There you go,
And he arrived in Bundaberg
From Geelong.
when he was about 13, came from Geelong.
fully grown.
Well, he had, but I saw photos of him when he was 5, and he had hair on his palms.
Yeah, one of the hairiest prepubescent people you'd ever want to meet, really.
But anyway, he turned up, and it was unbelievable. He could seriously play for his age. And the first time, Lyndon and I, we play on outdoor courts, mate. We're
Yeah, this is
that's how
Bundaberg.
we grew up. And we're wearing volleys. And Tomo's got some fancy Converse and 2-knee pullover knee guards.
Paulover,
Yeah.
Palmer Westover, we brought those out.
Stop it.
No,
Yeah.
is that where that came
Yeah.
from?
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
joking.
so he's wearing two of them. And
Neoprene.
here's Lyndon and I going, what are those things, mate? You know, like, and anyway, there's lots of stories about Mark Thompson. We introduced his mother to toads. Lyndon's father is Dutch, and brought home some little firecrackers, and we were holding the toads and placing the little firecrackers in their tiny little back section, and because toads are a pest.
Vermin.
God.
Vermin.
And so Tomo's mum the first time, and we, mate, you got to kill toads. They destroy native animals.
Yeah, I think the other story that Tomo's mum was horrified about, Mark Thompson's mum was horrified about, was when we first went over to his house. He was also a very good golfer, Mark was, and
Yes.
we found that he had this beautiful set of golf clubs, and I don't think Steve and I had ever swung a golf club before.
Not at
because
that
we never
point.
had clubs. But anyway, we thought, how good are these things? So we grabbed one each, ran out in the backyard, and of course, there wasn't what else do we hit but cane toads with the
Toads.
golf clubs.
Of course.
So she wasn't super impressed. with
Tomo's
that.
mum, Mark Thompson's mother, Renata.
Yeah.
Renata.
No.
Yeah, Renata. She was a little bit upset at the first meeting of the Bundaberg boys that she had. But anyway, we've come a long way now. I love Nadi.
Yeah.
So that's her. We say her first name. Anyway, let's
We
move
were
on.
allowed to use that nickname.
Because the other story that's interesting, from Lyndon, and by the way, his name is Lyndon Brieffies, nickname Undies, okay? And
You wear it well. Man.
yeah.
You don't arc up. You just go with
Just
it.
wear
And I
it with
love our
pride.
guests to sit in and work out why we call him Undies. I wonder if anyone can work out with his last name as Brieffies. Anyway, let's go into his coaching.
I want to get further into the coaching, mate, because we know you coached with our good friend Trevor Gleason, right? You were assistant. Was that your first foray into the NBL?
Into the NBL it was, but I coached in the State League. I coached at the Capitals as head coach, and Trevor was actually my assistant coach. I always say that, we were a part of the group that gave him his first opportunity, really.
Yeah,
because-
really. I mean, Trev came up. He funded himself to come up and be like a second assistant. Kerle was coach and I was assistant. And he had a great love for the game and just wanted to. He was like a sponge. Look at him now, unbelievable.
Yeah, it's actually a great story because if you know the story with Trev, he was hurt in an industrial accident in Warrnambool where he was working in an abattoir, and he was 17, I think, at the time, and he was playing basketball in those days, and an industrial door fell on him, and he had a serious back injury through
Correct.
that, and had to give away playing. So then he loved the game that much. That's why he went down the path of coaching. So he went from he's gone from being a 17-year-old worker who had a serious industrial accident to now coaching in the best professional leagues in the world. It's a fairly good story, right?
That's a great story.
It is a great
Yeah.
story.
But he was like, he could talk basketball 24 hours a day. He just loved the game.
He loves it.
And we've talked about this many times before. When people say, how do you know if someone's going to be a good player or a good coach? And if they can't tell you that they love the game, they've got no chance.
Well, first and foremost, gotta love the game. And we will be getting Trevor on. I
Trevor's
chatted-
king.
Trevor let me know that, mate, how can you forget my last name?
Oh.
And which prompted our producer to say, make sure you know everybody's names before you come on. No slang, no nicknames. And I told Trevor, I said, Trevor, I'm 69 years old. That's how I forget.
I'm 55 and I forget.
Well, the producer told me first it was Steve that I really got to worry about with forgetting names. But can we pivot and move
Yeah.
on?
Yeah.
Let's go on now. So when did you come up to? So your next
Andrew.
coaching event was
Oh,
in
no,
the
I coached
NBL?
at districts for a while. So I coached at Southern
Oh,
Districts.
and you did the women after I left.
Well, yes, I did the women's in the WNBL head coach after you pulled the pin on that group early in the preseason.
I was tied up with the 22 and under national team.
That won a world
the
championship.
world
All
championship.
right, any excuse. But anyway, so yeah, I took over from you and coached the women in the
What were
WNBL.
we called? Were we called the Braves?
Blaze.
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 Everybody took some LSD and went out and
But had a couple of good years at Spartans with Danny Morsu, with that pretty good group that had Aaron Honeyman and Scott Lloyd and Shane Nankara and Damien Anderson and Joe Hurst played there. We had a few pretty good seasons and a few championships.
Did you guys win a championship?
Did you
Yeah,
have
multiple.
Jim Carr?
Jimmy Carr, no. That was no before.
Because I know he was there. Because
No,
it's
that
a
was
great,
before
it's a
that.
great story of Morsey at Southern Districts. You know, it might be a urban myth, but he's come in, and Morsey can be fairly aggressive. You know,
Little
if you have
feisty at
half-time
times.
chat.
Yeah.
And Jimmy Carr, the story apparently gives Morsey a bit of cheek, a bit of tongue back, and Morsey goes, Jimmy, not now, Jimmy. And it's a very famous story.
It is a famous story. But pivoting back to Trevor Gleeson and our connection, so he went, then Trevor, you're right, he was a basketball junkie who loved the game and worked hard and decided to take himself to the States and develop his trade, and literally just walked in on camps and clinics and anything he could get involved in. And then, got the opportunity to coach in the CBA in those days.
Yep.
As an assistant, then got a head
Stacey King.
got a head coaching opportunity in the CBA, so really applied his trade there and learned a lot, obviously, and particularly in those days, managing the personalities of those Americans in the CBA was a pretty cutthroat sort of.
It's a tough gig.
It's a tough league,
because
right?
everybody's playing for themselves, trying to get the call up.
Correct, and he's a coach trying to keep a decent record because he's trying to develop his profile as a coach. But then I'd sort of lost contact with him for a few years, and then I heard that he got the coaching job at the Townsville Crocodiles. And at the time,
Where were you living when you
I
got
was
that?
working at BBC. I was working at Brisbane Boys College, and I got a phone call out of the blue, and it was Trev. And I was like, mate, it's great. You've got the gig up there. It's fantastic. What are you doing? And he goes, I'm looking for an assistant coach. And I actually said to him, I said, who are you looking for? I thought he was ringing me for a recommendation. And he said, I was thinking about you. And I did nearly fall off my chair at the time because I hadn't seen or heard from him for a while. But what an opportunity, right? So you talk about how an opportunity opens, and
Did he need a shooting coach at the time? Or
I think someone to correct technique on shooting was probably what he was looking for.
Somebody robotic.
Yeah. Maybe someone who could set screens, potentially.
well,
Someone who could,
that you can do.
who,
Yes,
who
you
could maybe
can.
teach boxing out and hitting people, potentially. Maybe
Yeah.
those things. That's actually
Well,
when
you guys were a good combination. Who were the players in that squad for Townsville?
Well, really, John Really was the captain.
Johnny, yeah.
Oh, and then Russell Hinder eventually was the captain. There was a range of different players that went through there at different times. I mean, obviously the most famous player that he recruited Towns was Corey Williams at the back,
Homicide.
Corey Homicide Williams
late.
Yeah.
just such a wonderful character and
So
contributed
did
to
you
the
coach
game.
Corey? I didn't
Yeah,
know.
yeah. In the last year I was there, Corey played on that
What
team.
years are we talking about here? Because I don't think I was in the country.
We are talking
97?
no.
It's later than that.
2006 to 2010.
Oh, Struth.
Yeah, 06
Where were
to
you?
2010. What were you doing?
I was modeling in Japan. I was,
What was it, hand modelling?
hand modeling. No, I was here.
But the other person that Trevor recruited, and he did a really good job of this, he found a young coach out of Nutter Wadding called Rowan Short.
I know Shorty.
Now, Shorty is a
He's
very...
still going coaching. Where's he now?
No, he's the game day operations manager at the Phoenix. So he's still in basketball, but out of coaching.
So I've seen him.
He was
Well, that's
coaching
what I
Noah
must have
Wadding.
seen him on TV
Yeah,
about the
around-
back of the game with his Phoenix, and I just assumed he
Yeah,
was coaching.
super capable guy, very good
Yeah.
coach. Carried me through those 4 years as an assistant coach, which I don't mind admitting because he was way smarter than me. But cracking guy, and the three of us actually keep in contact. I've got a little WhatsApp group. I call it Old Crocs.
Old Crocs.
What did you say? Did you say old cocks?
Crocs.
Oh,
Stephen,
Crocs.
Old
Crocs go hard.
I was going to say, we don't
See,
swear
our
on this
22 under
broadcast.
team was called the Crocs.
Yeah,
And we had a bunch of things. No soft Crocs.
yeah.
Crocs go hard.
I think Rowan was a little bit disappointed that I called it Old Crocs because he's a bit younger than Trevor and I. But anyway,
Okay.
So yeah, but four great years up there. It was a whole lot of fun. And to Trevor's credit again, talking about him, that team we made the playoffs every year.
Yeah.
Every year.
He was coach of the year one year there, wasn't
Yeah,
he not?
and then you think about it, that was a pretty low budget club, and we had to really scrap and work hard to recruit anyone up there. So but there were guys like Cameron Tovey who came up there, who went back to Perth. Cam Tovey, you might remember him or you may not. Drew Williamson was another one. Like these are guys who
Drew,
are
yeah.
guys who Brad
Williamson from the
Williamson.
Sunshine-
Yeah,
from
Brad Williamson came
Sunshine
up and
Coast.
played
B-Rad.
there. Absolutely, B-Rad played at the Crocs when I was
Wow.
up there. Yeah.
Who are your imports?
Well,
Homicide.
yeah, Roselle Ellis. He was tough. Roselle Ellis was one of the tougher
Boy,
guys.
that's a name that I have forgotten.
He
Yeah,
could,
same.
mate, he was brutal. He was brutally tough, and he was 6'5" at best, but he would guard the biggest guys in the league and not take a backward step. He was tough as anything. Galen Young was another import that Trevor bought out. Galen Young also won a championship at Perth after he left Townsville. He was a real solid.
Big?
Well, he could play anything kind of 2 to 4 really. He could handle the ball a bit. He was a multi-purpose player. So yeah, Roselle was. I would rate him really highly in terms of the time that we had up there.
Right.
And then Corey Williams obviously came in
Yeah.
after that. So
Wow.
I must have been
there-
somewhere because I
I-
never really saw Corey play.
and now we should shout out Greg
Oh, mate,
Vanderjack
he-
was a part of that team as well.
Sure.
Van Dandy was up there. Greg Vanderjack.
Oh, yeah,
He
Vandy.
played.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And Mitch Norton was a development player there
wow.
in those days.
I knew he was from Townsville.
Yeah, he's a Townsville boy. Shout out to Mitchie, captain of the Bullets
Wow.
now. And
Yeah.
what a hell of a
I
career.
mean,
Yeah, good shout out.
Mitch Norton, oh God, you pick him in your team every day of the week.
One of
it's
the-
like Deladova. You give me those guys every day of the week, they're going to help your club.
Can I make a Derek Rucker-like statement?
Yeah.
I would say Delhi, Mitch Norton, Australia. Is going to be great. Is going to be Flynn Cameron.
Love him.
But as far as rock solid, dependable, productive, at both ends of the court, Delhi and Mitch. Who else? Am I missing anybody in your? I know one of your.
Well, neither of Mitch or Delhi made Derek's 15. Bruce and I have just a move. We'll come back. We haven't finished.
Is this a
with you.
pivot or a
little
full
tiny one? With Derek, what's the 15? There's 12 people in a team. Why would you choose 15, D?
Well, 10 really. Like if you're 11 or 12 like me, you don't play.
I guess so.
play.
But like,
did play.
is he picking a
At the end
rugby
of
team?
Go
Is he
on.
picking a rugby team?
I've had
Well, that's
the
15.
Derek
Steve.
Rucker posts and everything else. Mate, just stick with what you do best, promoting yourself. Anyway, mate, how many years were you at Townsville? Were you-
4 seasons.
Did
up there.
you, when Trevor went to Melbourne United, was that it for you?
No, I left it the year earlier. So I had 2 young kids, and we had a point in time where we said, right, let's do a little bit of travelling, because my wife, if you know her, she's quite an avid traveller. So we decided to take a lap around Australia in 2010. So yeah, so 06 to 07, 08, 09 I coached, and then 2010 took a little
So
lap.
did that lead to your involvement in basketball in Perth?
And schools and basketball, absolutely. So
Yeah.
we spent 5 months of that 10-month trip touring Western Australia between Esperance and Kununurra, which was incredible. One of the best years of our lives, really. And we were literally in the middle of Australia and had to make a decision. I had a couple of opportunities to go back and work in Queensland, but I had an offer to go to Wesley College in South Perth as the head
Right.
of sport, which was a fantastic school, just celebrated its centenary just recently. And we said, look, we love WA, why don't we do that? So we pivoted and shifted furniture about as far as you can in Australia from Townsville to Perth. Well,
Right.
well, the school shifted the furniture, but that was nice of them. But moved to Western Australia, where we spent
The negotiator.
11 years.
That's right.
Well, we can get to the negotiators.
Now, you have a unique degree. And you got it at John Curtin, is that right?
No, I've got a Bachelor of Education
Yeah,
from
but your
Your
post.
postgrad.
Notre Dame University in Fremantle.
Okay. And what is the name of that degree? It's about sports administration, is it
No,
not?
it's a Master of Business Leadership, actually.
Oh, Masters in Business Leadership.
I thought I'd pivot, and I guess I did, into the space of that CEO role in basketball for a while. So I thought some business leadership and management skills would have been handy. So I did a Master's in Business
They don't
Leadership.
offer that in Queensland?
It's a really good course. I looked at it when Lyndon was doing. You had to live in Perth.
It was at Fremantle. It was a face-to-face course. There's some online masters courses in business, so MBAs and different things.
Yeah.
But this was
they
a face-to-face
didn't offer what
course.
that course did. That was
No, it was actually really good because they used to bring in some business leaders from Perth, some who would come in and speak as guests and different things,
Right.
and engage us in different workshops and things like that. So, really enjoyed the course. Actually, did it part time while I was working at Wesley, and then and then did a pivot.
Yeah.
Went
so
into the
pivot
basketball
again.
world.
So the CEO of the Perth
Redbacks.
Redbacks.
Right. Which
Yeah.
is the biggest club, is it not?
No, I wouldn't say
WA?
they're the biggest. They're actually, they're definitely not the biggest, but they're one of the bigger clubs in Western Australia. But they never have had their own facilities, so they operate out of about 20 community facilities. So you can imagine there's a
Does
challenge.
Perry
with that.
Lake still exist?
Yeah, Perry Lakes. They play out of the State Basketball Centre at Bendat.
Okay.
So they're a big association. Willetton's one of the bigger associations, but Willetton has their own 8-court facility, which sets them up
Nice.
beautifully. Redbacks have battled and had to use community facilities for so many years, but just recently we did a feasibility study on building a 12-court facility for the Perth Redbacks and lobbied the government, and just very recently the West Australian government has committed $2 million of government funds to identify and confirm the location for a new facility for the Perth Redbacks, which is outstanding for that
that's great.
association.
So you started that work. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is cool.
It's great stuff. Okay, and then it was great to have you come back to Queensland. You came back in that CEO role of the Northside Wizards. Am I right?
That's correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
And due to, let's don't get down the road, no conspiracy theories here, but I know this, I'm not having any more COVID vaccines. And it's not
Yeah.
because of RFK Jr.
Well, we came back to Queensland for family reasons, and with my wife's ageing mother. My mother-in-law's ageing, and we came back to help in that care of her mum, or Jude did. And then when the opportunity came up to do a similar role at Northside, I applied and was fortunate to be offered that role. But after, I guess, 12 months in that role, I was diagnosed with a heart condition, a viral cardiomyopathy that they can't really tell me. Was it COVID or was it the COVID vaccine? I don't know. But either way...
And our listeners can't see how handsome Lyndon is here.
What did you just call me?
handsome, I think he said.
No. Did you just call me the C word? No, that was can't. I'm sorry. Go on. Just a little mirth in it.
you know,
I've lost my train of thought there.
I'm sorry.
Of course you have.
I said I can't see how handsome he is, but one thing that I
I've
can
got a good
definitely-
head for radio, though.
definitely can say, Lyndon's in shape for a guy who's 56. Rides every
Great
other
shape.
day, mountain bikes. I mean, so for the heart thing, you
Is it all okay now? Do you have to take
Yeah,
medication?
it did take me back. So I went for a general checkup, and I'm actually going to say this to your listeners, that middle-aged men are a group that seem to have been affected more than this by any other demographic. And there was in the last few years, there's been a few ex-basketballers who've died of heart failure and different things, particularly in the US, and there's been a few stories of that sort of thing. And I think a lot of people could potentially have something like this undiagnosed. So I went to my GP just for a general checkup, and he sent me just for a heart check because of my age. And then I went to see him, and he said, "There's something going on with your heart. I'm sending you to the cardiologist." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" So I go into the cardiologist, and they've done an MRI of my heart, and he turns around and said, "You got to go on heart failure medication." And as Steve said, I think that week I rode nearly 200 kilometres on my bike, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" And it took me back a fair bit because, when you've been an athlete and you've worked around athletes and you keep yourself in pretty good shape, and then someone says you're going on heart failure medication
It
out
must
of the
have been
blue.
scary, man.
It was indeed, without getting too technical, my heart was definitely in the failure range when they looked at the results, and I was very stunned.
No history, no.
Nothing. No family history. So it wasn't a congenital thing or anything like that. It was a viral, that they call it viral cardiomyopathy. And I said to the doc, well, I had COVID the year before, earlier that year, quite badly actually, when I came back to Brisbane. And then I'd had 3, I think, of the vaccines. And I said, is it the vaccine or the virus? And he said, well, we don't know.
I know the vaccines. I was sicker with the vaccines than I was when I got it.
But the good news is the medications worked, and I'm now stepping back off the medications, feeling healthy again. But I guess we got to that because I stepped down from Wizards because I was like, there was a lot of uncertainty in my life, and and it's a very demanding job, those roles. You know, that basketball's 7 day a week.
And you don't want to let all those people down. I know exactly where you're at because that's what I'm doing now at BBI.
Yeah.
You know,
you got to look after your health, right?
Got to look after your health first and foremost.
I'm gonna make maybe it's an insult. I don't know. People can take
go
it whichever they like. But I am really disappointed in, like, coached for 35 years. And parents have always loved their kids and they've supported sport. But, like, in our era, there is just no way our parents would say anything to any coach or anything. They just said nothing. But today, people living their dreams through their children, and unfortunately we're creating an environment by having Division 5 rep sport. I mean, like, please, that's just money grabbing. Like, and these people think, oh, I'm rep. I'm walking around with my rep jersey and my rep tracksuit, but you know, you don't happen to tell, but you're in Division 5 under 18. You're not very good. I'm really sorry, parents. You know,
I wouldn't call it an insult because that's pretty true, isn't it?
It's true. I think there's some over-exaggerated opinions on where people's kids are going to get to in the game. You know, like when you look at the NBA, there's how many players in the NBA? 400 and whatever? 500. 500 players from around the world.
Man, it's like 0.0. I've done this math before. It's like 0.0003 that you ever make the NBA. So think about Paddy Mills's journey from Thursday Island. That's even more ridiculous. But you're right. There's not a chance that, like, even our best players, Chris Goulding can't get in the NBA.
Well, the reality is kids these days are a better chance of being a CEO of a major organisation in Australia than they are of playing in the NBA because there's more than 450 companies listed on the ASX, right? So try to be a CEO of one of them first.
Let me ask. So with the junior teams, did you guys, for the players, did you guys have a selection process, selection criteria first, and then a process?
Yeah, absolutely, and a selection panel. In fact, Stevie came a couple of times when we were doing that as a guest selector, because one of the challenges, as you know, with parents like that is you need to have some independence in the process, right? If you got some independent people who, so not necessarily the coaches, and the challenge of having so many rep teams is sometimes you have parents coaching teams.
Sure, you got it. You can't.
And they're coaching their own kid.
Obviously,
in a rep
right?
team.
So then you know, it puts pressure on that, and then the perception that there's favouritism is very thick, right?
Yeah.
So
I'm going to bet,
that's not for me.
Because I had 1 year I worked at Knox, 2010, and they had 48 rep teams, right? 10,000. They always say we're the biggest association until you drive a mile up the road, and Kilsyth would always have one more member than us. But they didn't have a selection criteria.
right.
One of it was if you were bottom eight, let's take under 18s, and if you were at 16 and you made the first, you're automatically going to be selected. That's cool, barring except for injury, illness, right? We only had one complaint, but we put in a selection criterion that started with each player evaluate yourself on our 9 things, 4 things defensively, 5 things offensively. We had one complaint in that the guy who was coaching the under 16 gold girls was his daughter. And he also wanted to coach in Nunawading the under 16 Cs, which his son played for. And he cracked the poops with me about, you're going to make me make a decision between my daughter and my son?
Oh, shit.
And I go, yeah. You know, and
That's not how we choose.
so he quit. And that solved that problem.
That's
And
easy.
he took his daughter and took her to Nunawading. That happened. It's viral. It's really
And your club didn't fall over
no.
after that?
Well, she was really good, but mate, she's 14.
Yeah. So,
You know, and
Yeah.
because they're coming in at 12.
Yeah.
Some of those, but we'd have trials, and now you have Kilsyth, Nunawading, Bayswater, which is a crazy name for a suburb because it's so far from the bay. It's frightening.
Oh.
Go down to Dandenong, another, now I'm
Giant.
assuming giant. It's huge, mate. That place, 20 courts. It's bigger than the State Sports Center.
Wow.
But they have all their choices. So we had to collaborate with them. We'll hold, when are you having your trials? Let's don't do it on the same day so we can give these kids every opportunity, to play rep basketball. And but if you don't have a criteria, you can't have a very good process.
And then you're leading yourself open to get criticised.
Sure. And you got to have 3 in your selection. So it's interesting. We went through this now with the Capitals, and I wasn't a part of it, and they had 4, just so they could spend more time arguing over who they want. But all right, let's get back to the Brieffies story. Oh, wait a minute.
Where we're at with the Brieffies story. So he's now back in Brizzy. He's been at the Wizards, CEO. He then, took a bit of a moment in life to look up and go, what do I want? And then along came rocking Ambrose Treacy, Director of Sport, Lyndon Brieffies. And that's where he is now, correct? Tell us about Ambrose Treacy.
Oh, look, it's only a young school, 10 years old. Actually, and I said this to the principal, Chris Ryan, I said when I saw the ad come up, I had to look it up because I've been away from Brisbane for 15 years. And
It used to be Nudgee Junior.
It used to be Nudgee Junior. And I think I said to you, Stevie, I said, where's Ambrose Treacy College? And I had to do a bit of Googling and find out. But Indooroopilly, the old Nudgee Junior College. So now in its 10th year, growing and has grown significantly in a very short period of time.
Good to have an indoor basketball facility.
Well, part of my job is to look at facility development for sure as we grow our program, absolutely, and our demand. But really nice school, and as I said, a lot of exciting opportunities for us. And part of what I do is strategically look at how we grow sport within our school. So participation, the quality of what we do, selection policies, for example, coaching manuals, facilities development is a big part of that. So and then keep looking and taking every opportunity we can in that school sport landscape in Brisbane.
They're lucky to have you, mate. But now there's another part of your professional life that you've jumped into this year.
His pimp.
He's not a complicated man. Nobody knows him but his players.
Yeah.
John Shaft. So what lured you to get into the agency?
Love of the game, I would say, Stevie. Straight up, love of the game. How's that?
And who are your 2 players?
So I've been looking after Erin Bowman, who was at the Northside Wizards and had a
Great player.
fantastic season. I think one of the most influential female players who I've seen, and the way she could influence at both ends of the floor.
And she's gone to
the Sunshine Coast Phoenix, signed a fantastic deal.
Sean Page.
Sean is the GM up there, and actually, can we go back to our first ever under-14 rep team for Wide Bay? Sean Page was on that team. The Sunshine Coast Phoenix GM.
And we used to stay at Sid and his dad.
And his dad, Sid, was the manager, and Alan Jenkins, our first coach.
And Beryl.
Yeah, we stayed at Sid and Beryl's place at Maroochydore at Cotton Tree.
Jump off the bridge into the canal. We thought we were pretty
Is Sean
cool.
related to Terry Page? Are they
Yes,
brothers?
absolutely.
Siblings?
That's his
And
sister.
Jody Page.
And Jody.
And Jody.
Yeah, correct.
Jody at Sac State.
Really, yes, very famous
They're
basketball
all the
family.
same family.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Sean coached a bit, for, I'm tempted to say 10 years over
he's
in the
been
States.
in the US for a long
States,
time and just come back in the last few years.
Running a good program. So that's good.
So Erin's gone up there, fantastic. Really excited about her opportunity up there, and I think she's a real marquee signing for them. So they're hoping to build a team around her, and that's a great starting point. I reckon. I might be biased being a manager, but I think she's a great pickup, and she's super excited. And then Leah Scott, who I don't know, I guess I can announce it. She's signed at the Logan Thunder to go and play under Aja. She's going to play for Aja.
The great imposter.
But Leah's signed a multi-year
So where was
agreement
Leah
with Logan.
Scott playing last year?
She played at the Southwest Metro Pirates. She also had a fantastic
For Aja.
season.
No, Aja coached the men.
No, Aja coached the men.
Right. Who coached the women's?
Yeah. Now you're testing me, aren't you?
All right. That's
It's
okay.
okay.
No nicknames, and it's okay if you draw a blank.
Hey, Bruce, let me just say this, that I've enjoyed discussing, and I've actually found it more interesting than I thought it was going to be with Lyndon today.
Well,
Is that
we were
sort of a
thinking
compliment?
that maybe
More
we gotta
interesting
have
than I
to slow
thought?
down our subscriptions. Let's get Lyndon on.
Yeah.
Come on, mate.
So I'm suggesting to keep our podcast at a reasonable time. I think we park the Melbourne United
Okay.
and we just do our dailies and a couple other little pieces of the games coming up this weekend. What do you think?
Let's do that, mate, because we're probably, my producer's falling asleep.
I think he's
we're
giving you
probably
the
getting
wind up
close
from the
to our-
couch.
And we'll be heading downstairs after this great podcast to have some food at Uncle Don.
Can you stay for dinner, mate? Can you check
Yeah.
with...
Okay.
Check with
Absolutely. I'll check with my manager.
So, Bruce, there's a couple of things that I want to...
Wait a minute. Before you get into that, can we just stop and pivot?
Yeah.
Are you only looking after players, or are you looking after analysts, coaches,
Podcasters?
podcasters?
Potentially. There's a market there, right?
I'm looking to, revive my stand-up,
Comedy.
comedy.
Yeah.
I'd like to diversify, I think. You know,
Okay.
at the moment, I've started small, just a couple of players, like a high level of care, looking after those.
I've got
but
a
I think
couple of players I'd like to direct to you, like Gabe Hadley last year with us. His agent was, and I don't mind saying it because I can't remember his name. He was woeful. In that didn't know what the details of the contract that Gabe signed. I told Gabe, I think he's a good player. He's another one of those guys.
Where is he playing now?
He's trying to get a gig in Germany, but I think their season, he's down in Tassie.
Okay.
He's a Tassie kid.
Okay.
Played at New Mexico State. The kid can shoot it.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's one skill that you guys value, what is it in basketball?
Yeah. Like
What do they say?
we-
if you can't do this, you play soccer.
Yeah.
You got to shoot it, mate.
Yeah. I mean, in soccer, that's where Lyndon started. When I found him and said, look, you need to play basketball, mate. And at the time, he just was wearing a black patch over one eye. He had a lazy eye. And in those days, they used to solve it with a black patch.
Is this true, Lyndon?
I had a visual disability when I was in my youth.
And-
I don't know if that's a point of
And I was a bit
criticism
concerned.
from Stephen. Is that what he's saying? I was,
He's not having a go.
Because soccer at under 12, let's just say he was a little plump. And I said, you need to come play
it was
basketball.
prepubescent, mate. We're all a little
You know,
plump prepubescent, aren't we, Bruce?
This is what I talk about. I save it. Oh, look at you, man.
Yeah, I've dropped some weight, mate.
Yeah.
A lot of people do it through diet and exercise.
Hey, Andy, this has been a good chat. And Bruce and I
Stay with us, though,
yes,
will you?
absolutely.
I am going to apologise to John Newley, you asked me that question, and I just had a little lapse. But John Newley is the American who's come here out of college, who's coaching at Southwest Metro Pirates and the women's team.
Okay.
And coached last season. He's coming back. So
Okay.
shout out to John.
Okay.
Okay.
Good. And of course, Patrick Ewing Jr.'s taken the helm of the men's team.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll do another
Okay.
deep dive later, but go ahead.
It just made me think, with Lyndon and talking about associations and coaching and stuff, we do want to, we talk a lot about players and try to stir a pot a little bit, but we do want to talk a little bit about coaching and,
The Coach's Corner.
Coach's Corner.
It's another section that anybody that's interested in sponsoring, we'll be starting this in our next
and we want people to tell us what they actually want to hear about,
survey of needs.
Yes. So anyway, I want to tell you a couple of things.
All right.
Derek Rucker's got his top 15 out. It's a good team. I just quickly run through it. Cartwright, PJ Cartwright, Xavier Cooks. This is the order. One. So he's got. I don't disagree with PJ Cartwright, number one. Xavier Cooks, yeah, that's fair enough. Montre Harrell, but I'm calling him Monster from now on because I just saw it somewhere on social media.
I believe he's coming back.
He is
To face
coming
the
back.
music.
He's coming back. He's got Cotton at 4, Jack White at 5. I like Jack White, but I'm not certain that high. In front of Goulding? I don't think so. Goulding 6. Trey Kerle the 3rd can play. Like him a lot. Matt Hurt. Now, that guy's a walking bucket.
Yes, he is.
So I would probably have Matt Hurt higher than Jack White, but that's me.
Slight erector set. Shall we say that, Bruce?
So
Matt Hurt, bit of an erector set that.
He's got the erector, so
Yeah, but
it goes
he-
down, maybe.
That's right.
We got
Put it in
Tyler
line.
Harvey 9, Will Magnay. I think Will Magnay's come a long way, but I haven't got him in my top 10 for Australia. I don't. And you know, there's no Mitch Norton. There's no who are we saying, the other lockdown guy in the league at the moment. We've talked about
Delavadova.
Dellavedova. No, Dellavedova doesn't make the top 15. You're kidding me.
Derek never defended, mate.
Yeah, well, they're probably looking at purely at stats. You know, Jalen Adams. Then we got James Bateman. Look, I'm really sorry. James Bateman has had a couple of blowout games, but he's not worthy of the 15. And he's only one. The guy from Adelaide, Kendrick Davis. He can seriously play. And he's the leading scorer in the league, and he's got him at 13. And then he's got Sam and Pinder. Sam Froling at 14, and he's got Pinder at 15. And so I give Derek credit because he does this to stir the pot, so it's good. Yeah.
When I see it now, I hide Derek. I'm just, he just stick to what you do well, mate.
He's a good commentator.
Analyst.
What if
Analyst,
I
yeah.
throw a couple of names out? What about Rob Edwards from Cairns, the import guard?
Yeah.
He's very good.
Yeah,
very good.
What about
third.
Doyle?
I think he's third.
Milton Doyle's been inconsistent, but he's a hell of a player. What about Christian Doolittle from Perth?
Mate.
Who's
Christian
probably-
Doolittle is one of my favourite
He's
players.
battled at both ends of the floor
He's
all
a-
season, right?
Can I
And
throw
he
a
can
boot in?
defend a point guard.
We'll defend 1 to 5, really.
Yeah.
They take the worst shots.
Who?
Perth.
Yeah.
Quick, fast, contested or not, they don't make teams defend them. So, and I love John really, right? John first played, right, in 95. I recruited him heavily from Gonzaga. Just think what the Bullets could have been if they kept him around. Hall of Famer. Basketball Queensland Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
A little
But
counter.
boy, they play basketball with like their heads are on backwards. The last game, they got smoked. Bad shot after bad, and Cotton just made his comeback. And it was like, mate, he's. I wouldn't mind him. He can have a green light,
Yeah.
but no one else. My God, it's just too quick. One pass up, gaff up at 3, and you're back on your heels on D. But anyway, let's go.
Their last game they lost to the Bullets, 105-84.
There you go.
That was the last game at Brindle.
Yeah.
But Bateman did go for 51. In
Yeah,
that
which
game.
was a record.
and mate,
oh wait, no, it wasn't.
Do you know the highest score
In
in
the
his
40
whole
game,
basketball career that he scored before that 51? You know how much?
It was in the 30s, right?
34.
Yeah, I was going to say in the 30s.
He's a Loyola Marymount
Mate, you know.
graduate. He played for Mike
I take my
Dunlap.
hat off to him. Unbelievable performance on that day. He just seemed to have an extra step on everyone. He was getting to the rim really well.
But,
I
you need consistency, right?
Yeah,
They need numbers consistently from
Well,
him if
mate,
they're going to win.
You look at consistency, and as I said to you, the assists and the point guards. You've got Kendrick Davis from Adelaide, 6.64 assists a game. Second, Matthew Dellavedova, 6.5. You know, then they're way down the list here.
Again, I ignore him. But you've given him
I just
credit,
thought of
and you've
this
done
discussion.
exactly what Derek was
Yeah.
hoping.
My last piece that I want to talk about, this is sort of daily news. There's a young man called, and I'm probably going to say his first name incorrectly, Efred Payton. 30-year-old playing in the NBA. He's been in hadn't played in the NBA
Any
since...
relation to Gary Payton?
I can't
I know
answer.
this point guard. He's a point guard.
Correct.
Yeah.
Had 21 assists on the weekend just gone. 21 assists.
For whom?
He plays for the Pelicans.
Oh.
And, believe it or not, that's only the second. The first is held by Rondo with 25 assists. But that's a good day out. I just thought I'd mention it, something different. A guy 30 years of age coming back in the league, 21 assists. I tell you, that's impressive.
It is.
Okay, over
Thank
to
you for that fun fact.
That's this fun facts with Steve.
Any
Yeah, that could be a
sponsors out
sponsor,
there?
yeah, that could
we're
be a
looking for
sponsored
somebody to
section right there.
sponsor.
Fun facts.
with Steve.
Yeah.
Section.
Yeah. Oh, but I mean, I got a couple of jokes in our Gmail. I asked people to send me a joke to share. There were a couple a little bit foul. I couldn't share them. So
Yeah.
Are we going to have a
because
dirty
my
section?
mum's a listener.
And you don't like swearing, so
Like mum gets
You
angry.
stumbled over a few F words today.
Maybe.
So we're going to look at this last session. We're looking at the upcoming games.
Oh, okay, yeah. Good point, Bruce. So Thursday night, I'm going to mention the first team is the home team.
Okay.
Okay, and you guys can tell me who you think.
All right.
Okay, Illawarra versus the Breakers.
At Illawarra, there are going to be a whole lot of flopping
And
going
remember,
on.
that's Taco. That's Taco's first game.
Yeah.
Is
Taco.
Is it Taco, Lyndon? How do we pronounce it?
Taco Fall. That's him, Steve.
It's
You-
not.
you
It's
go.
not Taco.
Not Tarco, not
Taco.
Toco,
Taco.
not Taco.
Taco.
Like not taco, like a taco.
Not taco.
Oh, it's taco.
No, I said taco.
Not Taco, not Tarco,
Okay. All right.
not Toco.
I hope I run into him because he'll really appreciate how much we made fun of his name. Anyway, it's his first game.
Moves like a glacier.
Yeah.
I'm
So
picking
you're going
Illawarra.
Illawarra?
There'll be a whole lot of
Where are you
flopping
going,
going on.
Andes?
Yeah, I'm going Hawks on that one. I think the Breakers, with Gillespie leaving and him coming in, I think it'll be a little
take a little
disruptive.
time.
And Hawks at home, they're pretty tough at home.
Yeah.
They are, yeah.
Next game, Cairns versus the Kings.
I'm going to go with the Kings. This is where Cairns.
First team I name is home team. Do I have to repeat?
So
it
who's
as
the
I go?
home team? Okay. I'm going to go with the Kings. Cairns have been, they've been a little bit snake bit.
Correct.
They've got the Tassie point guard back. Name? Lyndon? What's his name?
For Cairns.
Bloody good, yeah.
Yeah, no, I do know who you're talking about.
Good basketball
Taron
family.
Armstrong.
Armstrong.
Yeah, Taron Armstrong.
Taron Armstrong.
Now, talk about
Yeah, hell of a
somebody
player.
getting 50. His dad, when I was coach of the Southern District Spartans, who we went on to win it, he lit us up. They had Mark Radford was the head coach, nothing but turnouts, hard to guard. We won handily, but he gave us a 50 piece.
Wow. Okay.
It's a
So,
small world.
I reckon
after all.
I'm going Kings in that one, but I think Cairns aren't far away from
Yeah.
turning this thing around. Again, they've had such a disruptive season and
Yeah, a lot
lots
of
of
injuries.
injuries and battled, but they've been hanging in there, and you can tell they're 40 will do a good job.
Their guard play is better than Sydney's.
But I'm actually going to say, I also think I'm going to shout out to Gorge and say it hasn't all gone his way and the team's way, but he's of such a high level of experience and quality that he's going to turn them around at some point. That's going to start.
They
clicking over.
gotta get. Adams has got to get back to 100% health.
Fitness, yeah.
So when the ball's in his hands, he makes plays. He ain't much for moving without the ball. The other guy, you, me, Kyle, Cam Oliver.
Yeah.
Don't settle for just jump shots. And how about sprinting?
Yeah.
Get ahead of the ball. Attack the rim. And you look at his history, it ain't good. Cut. Cadet.
Oh.
He's cut everywhere.
That's harsh, Bruce.
Well, he fit in the budget.
Talent only gets you so far. Is that what you're saying?
yeah,
correct.
I thought he'd be better than what he's been this year. I just thought.
Oh, he's been a disappointment.
Yeah, totally. All right, next game. Perth versus Brisbane.
At Perth,
First team I name is the home team.
I'm going to go. I can't see Bateman going for. I can't see Rocco, though. I tell you what, it helps having Nar and Norton.
100%.
Yeah.
Nah. He helped Rocco in that last game. He put Rocco right on the dime. To Rocco's credit, he was in the right spot. But
Yeah.
he still had to be.
The reality is lack of backup point guard because Bateman's obviously demonstrated he doesn't want to run the point. He wants to play as a shooting guard, even though they brought him in as a point guard, right?
What?
But Mitch, respectfully, as much as we love him to death, you can't expect him to be playing
Can't go-
more than 30 minutes a game, right?
There was one game that they
who
got-
else is going to run the point? But
So, mate-
I'm impressed with Emmett Nar as well. I thought I was a bit dubious when they signed him, but then that game that I watched, he plays great D. He's long.
Yeah. Yeah.
Can handle the ball well. He's safe with it. Moves the ball and makes the right decisions. He's a good passer. That's
Yeah.
where Rocco was the benefit of that.
And then he's a real point guard.
And he's not going to take shots that he shouldn't take, right? Like he gets a few little slips to the ring and a few little buckets here and there, just like Mitch
He doesn't
does.
take bad shots.
Doesn't take bad shots.
No, Mitch doesn't take bad shots, but you're spot on, Lyndon. I mean, because they always have Mitch on the predominant ball carry.
Yeah.
So he's dogging 90 feet
and then bringing the ball down
against the same pressure.
That is so
Great
much
vision.
effort. Yeah.
Great defender. I tell you what, and I don't know who it was that, and it always comes down to finances and what have you, but boy, did Perth miss Mitch Norton.
Mate, and the one thing that Brisbane have against Perth is Mitch defending Cotton. It would be as good as
I think
any.
he had 5 points at three-quarter time in that game, right?
He would be as good as anyone in the league defending Bryce Cotton because he defended him every day of his life.
Yeah, well, they're great mates, and he did it every day in practice. Like you said, it's not strange, but it's a reality that Chris Goulding put 46 on Perth the week before, and
then Bateman.
and who guarded him? Well, who guarded him from Perth? No one really. No one
It
could guard him.
hurts that.
And then Bateman has 51 against Perth. So who's guarding him?
Yeah.
But if you had Mitch Norton, I don't think
He would have been on both those players.
he's all over them, right?
Yeah. Okay. That's good.
we
Good
keep
points,
going.
Lyndon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So what we'll do, we'll get you when we get into this section. We'll give you a call.
Okay.
So we got Southeast Melbourne versus Illawarra. Illawarra's second game of the weekend, and
What are the days between this play at home, go on the road?
Illawarra playing on
Thursday.
Thursday, and then they're playing on Saturday.
Yeah, which is tough.
It's real tough. So
At-
and that's at home. Southeast Melbourne's only game of the weekend.
Yeah, sitting there waiting, preparing, and watching the game on Thursday, getting a good scout out of that.
I'm going to, and I quite like the way they're playing. Their coach,
Oh, they're playing better. There's no question.
much better. I like the coach. He's young. He's enthusiastic. I know he comes from good pedigree. I'm going to go with the Phoenix,
Okay.
or should I call them the Heartland?
And Lyndon, where are you heading?
Yeah, I reckon I'm going Phoenix in a close one again. I just think you're right, backing up and the preparation of the Phoenix, and he does do a good job of getting them ready to go. They'll be up and about for that, I reckon.
Absolutely. And I'll play D. Adelaide versus Tassie. And can I add, Adelaide will be out without Monster, and they won't have
Kendrick Davis.
Both of them average 20 points a game.
All right, let's get some clarity. Are they both suspended?
Yeah.
Yes.
3 games for Harold and 2 games for Kendrick.
Now, was that a suspension from the one-man tribunal,
The one.
or is it a
I
one
think it's
person?
called a single-man tribunal.
That's so
one-man
disappointing
tribunal.
when the league is promoting itself as much as it is, and like I enjoy watching the games. That's supposedly the second best league in the world. Supposedly,
That's what they say.
Yeah, but come on, you
Come
can't
on.
have a one-man tribunal.
No.
Get professional. Come on.
Yeah.
This happened a lot in my coaching career. I remember coaching at Geelong. Remember the old Geelong Arena?
Yes.
And they have people sitting in like little boxes up above you,
Yeah.
pouring drink on the coach. My head, my everything. The league. What are you flipping off? I go, what? Can we get some security? Pissing down. I don't know if it's piss, if it's fucking beer. If it's beer, I would have turned around and opened my mouth. But it wasn't. It was Fanta.
Oh,
and
damn
it
it.
sticks.
And
then,
sticky.
Don Shipway, my close friend Don Shipway, was at Tassie. They're giving him heaps. He turns to the box behind him and he's pointing at the guy. The guy says another word to him. This guy's glasses go flying. Open-handed.
He slapped him.
Can't do that, Don. They can call you everything under the sun.
I watched the footage of that, and a lot of blame has gone. I mean, the assistant coach, ex-player of Melbourne's got some dollar fine. I forget. I mean, he had an ugly shot, but played long
Barlow,
time.
David Barlow.
Yeah, he got
Fine for entering the court.
yeah,
as
you
an
got
assistant.
some. But mate, there was people everywhere. I don't, and mate, I would, if I had a person from the crowd push me, I would push them back. There's no question.
Oh, it's-
Mate, and you know what? Of course, we never go down. How are the referees handling the game?
Yeah.
Because that'd be the first. Okay, we'll take care of that. But mate, I'm looking at you three, because this thing escalated before you guys did anything.
Yeah.
So, and let's be sure, if you can understand Montrell, because I struggle. You know, there's some syllables are out of reach.
Well, he's obviously learned in a different location to.
Obviously.
Yeah.
But, you know, I thought for sure, bugger it, right? I'm not coming back for this bullshit.
Yeah.
I'm glad
But-
he's coming back, though. I think
I'm
that
glad
shows
he's coming
good character.
I
You
mean,
know,
he's great for the league.
without doubt.
Mate, not only is he second in scoring, he's leading in rebounds a game. He's doing 9.18 rebounds, so he's averaging
a
20 and 9.
Yeah, but he adds attitude and toughness, right?
And-
He's tough.
He's fourth in blocks.
Wow.
He's long, man.
Yeah.
He-
And I still don't think he's in the best shape.
So are you going Adelaide or Tassie?
I actually think this is one of the most difficult ones to pick. With those two guys out, they're big outs for Adelaide, right?
That's 40 points they got to find.
Is
Adelaide-
Magnay in? He's
Yeah,
completely
Magnay.
healthy.
And Tassie's another one of those teams that's underperformed. But, you know, Scott Ross is a good coach, and you know he's got good talent with Doyle and Magnay and the talent that he hasn't. You know,
Who's the itty bitty guard? Cartwright.
Crawford.
Is there a hyphen in his name?
No hyphen
No,
in
that's
that one.
Parker.
He's not bad.
Crawford
He-
can
he-
play. And again, but him and Doyle haven't really played well together
No.
yet. But if they get that thing clicking and Magnay's doing his thing,
Magnay's key to their success.
absolutely.
And Drimmich is Anthony Drimmich, Frankie Drimmich's brother.
Yeah.
Well, they play
You know,
good,
if he
play
can-
good roles, right?
Yeah.
He can defend.
He and he's good size and length. Yeah.
But I've gone Tassie.
I'm with you. I'm going Tassie on that.
You're going
one.
Tassie.
I'm going Tassie.
Smee? No, I'm going Adelaide.
Okay.
Sticking with the home team, Brucey.
You know it.
Melbourne versus Kings. Kings' second game of the weekend.
Melbourne.
Yeah. Same thing. Team waiting and preparing and watching.
Perth versus the Breakers. The Breakers have had to go. This is their second game of the weekend. They had to fly from New Zealand. And because they got Taco 4, apparently he can't fit through or fit on a plane or whatever. So he's gone by boat. Right?
Train, something. You know about train rides, right?
Yeah, well, this is their train.
I get a lot of free rides because I'm a.
He's my carer. Bruce is my
carer,
carer. Yeah, but that's for another
That's
day.
another story.
So anyway, they've had to go from New Zealand to Illawarra. So that means you've got to fly into Sydney, go through customs, and then drive down. Still haven't made it yet.
No.
And then they've got to go from Illawarra one day in between their games and play Perth. That is one tough
So what's the day? How many days between? They get a day to
trip.
travel.
They play on Thursday night,
Yep.
and then they're playing on Sunday.
I'm going to go with Perth.
Yeah, same.
I mean, I don't like the way
I'm,
they play.
I'm actually going to go New Zealand on that one. And my rationale is when they went to the States and played hard, you know, competed in the States and came back, I thought they'd be terrible. But they came back and they went straight to the top of the league, right?
Yeah.
They handled that travel
Outstanding
and demand
coach.
amazingly, right? Really, really well. They play together. They've got a couple of fantastic imports. I know Fall's new and coming in, but he'll add some rim protection and
Do you think he
dimension.
might be a little get a few blocks?
He
at
might.
7'6"?
But at the end of the day, I think if there's a team that can do that with the travel you're talking about, I actually think it's New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I
That's a
get
great
this
point.
little feeling that Perth
Okay.
win Thursday night, Friday night.
Perth play on Friday night.
Yeah, and then
And then
back up-
Sunday.
Yeah, and I'm saying, you know, we get a win Friday night. We're pretty relaxed. We come in. New Zealand lose is what I predicted in Illawarra. Pretty desperate.
Yeah.
I'm going the Breakers on that one in
Lyndon's
Perth.
maybe had some influence in the Perth. You know, like they might be dancing on the tables after game one on Saturday night.
Potentially.
Maybe they're not
They
ready.
could
'cause
be-
Well,
they're-
mate, it's not a lay down misere. They're going to beat Brisbane. If Brisbane's got to be confident.
I just can't see it, but it's hard to win in Perth.
Yeah,
Hard to win in
absolutely.
Perth.
Particularly, and again,
Yeah.
Perth's waiting, and that's the game they really prepare for, and then you got to back it up, right? 2
Yeah.
days later, and I know New Zealand are, but I just think New Zealand's learnt from their travel experience, and they've shown some toughness in bouncing back.
No one travels more.
No one
Yeah.
travels and does it better, right? So I don't think the travel's a factor. I think
Okay.
it's how they respond.
That's all the games.
And that's all for this edition
I think
of
you ready to
Violations
wrap
of
up?
Podcast. First, let me thank Lyndon. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You
guys.
added some jam that
No,
Steve wasn't
thank you.
expecting.
Okay.
Thank you to our
Appreciate that.
sponsors, Brian Kerle Basketball and FIT Education.
Yeah.
And we'll have this thing out in about early, who knows, that's up to the producer, but it'll be out soon.